Hi everyone, how are you? Welcome to my Facebook Live. I'm so excited to be doing this. In fact, I'm a little nervous. I'm not sure why. I guess in the past I've done plenty of live broadcasts before, but it was always impromptu and me walking in the woods and thinking, oh, I think I'll talk about why you should exercise or something like that. But this was a planned event where I invited you all to, and if you couldn't make it today, it will be available for replay, so no worries. And I apologize for having to cancel yesterday. I woke up feeling just not 100%, and I really like to walk my talk or walk my walk, and I followed my own advice and I took it easy yesterday. So this is going to be hopefully the first of many regular broadcasts, and I can't wait. I hope to do one once every week, once every other week. We'll see how it goes. If you really like them, maybe I'll do them more frequently. And in the comments, if you'd like to let me know when a good time is for you. I'm going between doing this on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So anyway, so in case you don't know who I am, my name is Angela Noel Martin. I own Acupuncture of Boston at Healthy Channels. I've been practicing out of Boston for 10 years in the Copley Square area. And more recently, I opened up a second location in my hometown, or the town where I'm living. I'm from New York, not my hometown, in Acton, Mass. So I just opened up that practice last month, and it's been going really well. I feel really lucky to have the opportunity to collaborate with these individuals that are at the Wellness Center. So today I wanted to just briefly take up, 10, 15 minutes to talk about the immune system. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them and I'll answer them as we go. And, or you can save them to the end, or you can contact me after this broadcast is over, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. So I want to just give you a little intro about the immune system from the Western perspective, which is the medicine here in the United States. We are a more westernized culture. We do allopathic medicine. So I wanted to talk about the immune system from that perspective and from the Eastern medicine perspective, which is the medicine that I practice. So what the immune system does is it protects the body from harmful influences in the environment, and it's composed of organs, cells, and proteins. And the task of the immune system primarily is to neutralize pathogens, also known as bacteria, viruses, and parasites, or those germs that we're always fearing and talking about, especially at this time of the year and going into the cooler winter months. And it also recognizes and neutralizes harmful substances in the environment, and it fights against the body's, sorry, I'm cheating here a little bit. I'm a little nervous, so I'm referring to my notes. So it also has the ability to fight against the body's own cells, which have changed due to illness, and that is cancer cells. So that's really, really brief. I don't feel like I need to go into a lot of detail about that. The immune system in our body is the second most complex system in the body next to the nervous system. So it's often overlooked because if we don't need it, we're not using it, right? So if we're feeling great, we're not really thinking about it, or we're always using it, but we're not thinking about it. So, and then from an Eastern perspective, or a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, let me just give you a little bit of a background about TCM if you have never heard of this concept before or you're not familiar. Basically, traditional Chinese medicine is organized around the body's production and maintenance of qi. Oh no, excuse me one second, I might have to plug in. Okay, hold that thought, I'm gonna plug in. I didn't realize I was running out of battery. It's like as soon as these computers get to be like 2 or 3 years old, they lose their ability to charge very long. So it was just at 95% not too long ago. All right, sorry about that interruption. So qi is basically the body's life force. And a lot of people traditionally think, when they hear words like qi, they think that's kind of like a woo-woo thing. But all we're really talking about is the body's life force, and it's the body's responsibility to make sure that qi is moving into all areas of the body, or in Chinese medicine, we know that as the 12 major meridians or channels. So the big component behind qi movement is blood. What is qi? It's believed to be blood traveling through the vessels, nourishing all of the muscles, all of the organs, all of the cells. It's through our bloodstream where all of the nutrients travel. So when the body gets out of alignment, that's when we have illness. And it's through the stimulation or nourishment of qi or blood that we can acquire wellness and homeostasis. And that's basically the basis behind acupuncture and Chinese medicine. We want to be in balance or homeostasis at all times. So we look at balance. The term we use is yin and yang. And yin and yang, there's two major components. Yin is known as the more feminine. Yang is known as the more masculine, and we want to have equal distribution of both of those aspects at all times. And I would love to do another Facebook Live about this topic because balance is so important. So, moving on. So the immune system in Chinese medicine is known as what we call Wei Qi, W-E-I, Wei Qi. And Wei Qi is believed to travel at the very surface of the body. And it's kind of like our body's, little army, so to speak. So the Wei Qi is always fighting and warding off bacteria, pathogens, etc. And in Chinese medicine, that's known as Shi Qi, so X-I-E. Pathogenic qi. So it's known as the body's first line of defense, and acupuncturists can actually tell if your Wei Qi has been activated even more, like it's fighting something off by checking the pulse. It's kind of crazy. So the pulse basically feels when somebody's feeling sick, like it's really, really at the tip of right on the surface. So we check the pulse in 3 different spots on each wrist, and each spot, so 1, 2, 3, each spot represents 2 of the acupuncture channels. So if somebody comes in and they're feeling tired, they have a sore throat, they have stiffness in the trapezius area or the neck, they're having alternating fever and chills, that's usually a sign that the body is fighting something off. And that is the magic time, guys. Like, that is when we should say, oh my God, I'm fighting something off. And that is when the Wei Qi has been activated and is trying really, really hard to make sure that you do not get sick. And when I talk about getting sick right now, I'm talking about like respiratory illnesses, flus. So, and the kind of issues, the viruses we see most in the winter months. So, where am I here? Okay, so what can you do when you have these initial signs? the first thing that you can do is start taking herbs, Chinese herbs or any kind of herb to that will help activate the immune system even more and ward off these harmful bacteria or the Shih-Chi. A really popular formula that you can get from your acupuncturist or Chinese herbalist is called Yin Chow, and then there's many other brands that have their own version of this, but basically the herbs release the exterior, and so that exterior, you know, where this Wei Qi travels, it strengthens that exterior to push the pathogens out. And you notice I'm wearing a scarf today. If you know a lot of people that are in alternative medicine, a lot of us wear scarves even in times when we don't really think we need scarves. It's because the pathogenic bacteria or pathogenic force of the Shih-Chi is coming in through the back of the neck under C7. There's a point there called GD14. And that's where, and the pathogen travels on wind. So really important to wear our scarves because it protects the body from the wind. So when you take these herbs that release the exterior, you are usually causing the body to sweat. It depends if it's a hot or cold condition, but most of the time if it's a sore throat, it's a hot condition and you want to sweat these pathogens out. Another thing that you can do is you can induce your body into a very light sweat. I don't recommend at this point that you go into a sauna, or some people swear by doing exercise. I think light exercise is fine, like a light walk or, you know, just something really, really simple that's going to induce a light sweat. And then what you do after that, and the herbs will do this too, the herbs will induce a very light sweat. You wrap yourself up in blankets and just kind of keep that sweat in there. You don't want to be sweating profusely because that will wear you out and make the situation worse. But just a light layer of sweat is going to make you get rid of those pathogens quicker. So that's one thing you can do. This is when you're actively sick. Okay, I talked about all those things, the scarves. And I want to talk about some preventative measures, or actually before I do that, I want to just talk really quickly about other factors that can affect your immune system. So we're learning more and more that the immune system is, and surprise, surprise, it's involves basically the whole body. So in allopathic medicine, traditionally, we look at one thing as one thing. So an eye issue is an eye issue. We go to the dentist to get our teeth fixed, but what's up with that? Why do we look at the mouth as separate? Because we're learning that the mouth is indicative often if there's something going on in the mouth, there's something going on with our heart or somewhere else in our body. So why are we looking at things separate? So one of the factors in immunity is gut dysfunction and leaky gut. It's so common right now. So many people have it. And leaky gut is usually a pre-existing condition to autoimmune conditions and other things too. So, and we get that basically from a lot of different things. Poor diet, poor sleep, chronic stress, you know, being exposed to chemicals for too long. So all these things in turn affect our gut. So it's believed that 80% of our immune system resides in our gut, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, because, and what that means is that there's cells in our gut that are involved with the immune system, and these cells are signaling messages back and forth between our brain and our gut. And I mean, it's such a fascinating topic. I could spend like an hour talking about this, and maybe I will sometime because it's really, really important. And that also affects our stress level too, right? So when we're really, really stressed out, our brain and gut are going crazy because our nervous system is really, really involved at that point. So, so what am I feel like I just went on a tangent. I'm really sorry. We want to keep our guts. We really want to keep track of our guts and what we're putting into our body, and you know, what medicines, if anything, we're taking. And if we're on a lot of medicines, we might want to think about that, reconsider that. And of course, you want to talk to your doctor But really establishing a good, solid diet, using food as medicine. Maybe you need to see a functional medicine doctor for a while and run some tests and find out what exactly you're deficient in. Most people, especially people with gut issues, are deficient in vitamin B12 because that vitamin slips out in our leaky guts, and it's a really important functional vitamin. And one mineral that most of us are severely deficient in is in magnesium. Like, I recommend those 2 supplements all the time. Like, you could basically take magnesium every day for the rest of your life. And it's kind of like fish oil and some other of the major vitamins. Like, we're at this point, until our food system improves, we're going to be deficient in these things. So, bone broth. Bone broth is like a superfood, basically. There's some really good recipes on the internet to make bone broth. What I like to do is take a bunch of bones that I get from my farmer, and we save everything. We save our chicken carcasses. We save all the bones we get from our meat farmer after we eat the meat. And we put them in the freezer, and when it's time to make bone broth, I put the bones in the slow cooker with some water, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, and salt and pepper. And I cook that pot for 12 hours on low, sometimes 24. And all those minerals that are in those bones get cooked out and go into the broth. And then when you ingest the broth, you're getting all those minerals. And some people don't like that idea. They're vegetarian, and I totally understand that. So if you are not into bone broth and you have a chronic illness or an autoimmune condition, that's something to really look at. And you probably want to see somebody professionally about that, because I just saw Audra. Hi, Audra. You really should get that. You should think about it. I'm not telling you to take bone broth if you are not into it, but I think seeing a nutritionist professionally and figuring out what you're deficient in is going to be really helpful to you. So we've talked about nutrient imbalance. So the major nutrients that most of us are deficient in are B12, iron, folate, magnesium, zinc, EPA, DHA, or fish oil, and fat-soluble vitamins. We talked about the gut-brain axis. Toxic burden is another factor in immunity. So either you worked in a factory all your life and you were exposed to fumes, or you were exposed to some kind of chemical, or you grew up and your mom was always using bleach, like really hardcore chemicals to clean the house, or you have done that yourself. Pollution just by walking outside is, some of these things we can't avoid, but the toxic overload of our bodies is a factor in our immune system. So we want to be really mindful of that and make choices that are going to be the least toxic as possible. So what you can do is you can choose the types of rugs that you put into your house, or the furniture, or the paint that you put on the wall. Most paints are better than they used to be. They no longer contain lead, thank goodness, but just the high VOC, low VOC paints. And then eating organic. And it's not just a hippie thing that, I wish it was more accessible, because the sprays and the toxic chemicals that are sprayed on our food does get into our body. And if we're already overloaded with chemicals, it's just a higher burden on the body to filter all those out. So eating organic, eating meat from a good source, grass-fed beef, buying from a farmer, buying local, is meat really has a bad reputation right now, unfortunately, because there's certain minerals and vitamins that you can get in meat that you can't get from anywhere else. And I do understand vegetarianism. I didn't eat meat for 5 years until I went to acupuncture school, and I was completely depleted all the time, and I couldn't study. So I started eating good quality beef, and that's made a huge difference in my life. And then another factor are chronic infections, tick-borne illnesses, and the co-infections that come from that. So Borrelia, Babesia, Bartonella, and Ehrlichia. Those are often factors that show up later when people show up with an autoimmune disease and realize that they, at the same time that they have some kind of tick-borne illness, if they didn't know that before. So what can you do? What can you do about having, let me check the time. I have a massage soon, so I want to make sure I'm on time and I don't keep you too long. So this is probably the most important thing. There's so many things you can do to keep your immune system strong, but of all the things you can do is you can change your mindset. I was speaking to a group about this over the weekend. Changing your mindset is huge. It's not cold and flu season anymore. It's wellness season. It is an opportunity to nourish our bodies so that we are well. And it kind of always bothered me, actually, to hear people talk about, and this is before I became an acupuncturist, oh no, like somebody at the office is sick, I'm gonna get that too. And I feel like when you do that, you're manifesting that, basically. So change your mindset, decide that it's wellness season. I'm not saying, yeah, I need to do anything else, but don't believe those myths about cold and flu season. Don't listen to it. Separate yourself. It's kind of like separating yourself from a negative person. You know, somebody that is not good for you. It's the same thing. Just don't do it. Don't go there. Okay, huge. If you do nothing else, do that. Sleep 8 to 9 hours a night. If this is a struggle for you, then what I recommend is that you make it a priority as well. In addition to your mindset, all these things are important. But if you're sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night or less, that's not really going to help your immune system. So focus on what you can do to improve that. There's a really, really great article there's lots of articles on the internet about sleep hygiene. There's basically things you can do all day long to improve your sleep later on. So some people are extremely, extremely caffeine sensitive. Some people are not. Some people really shouldn't. If you're that kind of person where it stays in your system for a certain amount of hours, and I believe there's a test for that, or you can just test it out on yourself. You have caffeine and you're still wide awake at 10, 11 o'clock at night. You're probably caffeine sensitive and you shouldn't have it. If you're getting up in the middle of the night to urinate several times a night, you might want to look at your caffeine consumption, because caffeine irritates the bladder. And so that's just sleep more. Try to go to sleep 10 to 15 minutes earlier, like do that for a week, then change it. It's so important. I understand people who have families and children and responsibilities, jobs. I totally get it. So baby steps, baby steps. Hi, Aunt Ruth. My Aunt Ruth just joined from California. Yay. So thanks for hanging in with me, guys. I really appreciate everybody who's been here the duration. So exercise is so important. If you look at a map of the body, our musculature, our skeletal system, we are meant to move. Exercise induces the release of endorphins and the release of beneficial hormones that helps keep us well. It also has something to do with serotonin. I'm sure a therapist could go into that a little bit better than I could, or many other people that are involved with the brain, but exercise is so important. And if you're not a big exerciser, walking is so good for you. So, you know, and if you struggle with this, what I suggest you do is schedule your exercise routine, and I'll admit I am working on that myself. It's putting it in your schedule so it's there and you know you're going to do it. Have an accountability buddy or an exercise buddy to help you do this. So important. Exercise at least 30 to 60 minutes a day. Avoid sugar, caffeine, and alcohol. Huge, 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 huge. I could go into more detail about it, but I think for the most part, that's pretty self-explanatory. All those things de-strengthen the immune system. And then you know, as I was talking about wellness season, think about wellness season as a mindset, right? And take your herbs. Take herbs that are going to strengthen your immune system when you're well. So herbs like echinacea, astragalus, those are the ones I love to use. Red root, there's plenty of Chinese herbs for immunity. So if you are unfamiliar, I would go to an herbalist and have them help you out with that. There are herbs that are safe to take every day, prophylactically, to keep your immune system strong. And then the neti pot, which is an Ayurvedic tradition. The neti pot basically is a little pot. I do have one. I should have brought it to show you if you haven't seen it. Basically, it looks like a little teapot, and you put a saline solution in it, and you rinse your nasal passages with the neti pot. So it goes in through one nostril and out the other. And some people are a little freaked out by it, which I totally get. Like it's kind of weird to have water go into and out of your nose. But what that does is that it attracts the phlegm and mucus, and it cleans out the saline attracts phlegm and mucus, and it cleans out the nasal passages. So, and I recommend doing that before you're so stuffed up that the water from the neti pot isn't going to be able to go through, you know. So you want to do it like, oh, I'm feeling a little stuffed up. Do it then, okay? And then another thing you can do is gargle with salt water. You know, the good old gargling. My mom and dad used to have me do that when I was little and I was sick. Gargle with salt water. If you have a sore throat, gargle with salt water. And another thing about the neti pot is that you do not want to use water. You want to use filtered water. So if you don't have a water filter on your faucet, I would boil the water, let it sit until it's warm, and then add a little bit of salt. And then there's instructions on the internet for how to do that. But that is that's just a really great way of managing phlegm. If you're, you know, out of control with phlegm, just gargle with salt water. Salt is the best thing ever. Like, seriously, keep it stocked on your shelves, guys. Can we say fermented food, right? Like, it's so inexpensive to go buy a head of cabbage and salt and make sauerkraut. Like, Whole Foods sells the real stuff for like $8, $9 a jar. I make mine for, I don't know, $2.50 for an organic cabbage, if that. And these are East Coast prices, so maybe you can get them cheaper elsewhere. Plan ahead. Plan ahead. So this is one of my community stories. I had a patient who had really, really bad allergies, really bad seasonal spring allergies. And she was coming to me for getting treated for that. And she said, you know what? And she came a little late. You know, she started coming maybe in May or April, and it helped a little bit. The treatments really helped. But she said, next year, I really want to plan ahead. So what she did is she started coming 2 times a week in January, like right after the holidays. And she came all the way through, and she changed her diet. She got off sugar. She got off a lot of the inflammatory foods. And she focused on some lifestyle aspects, and she was allergy free. And this is somebody that's like, you know, red face, like super allergic, like it was amazing. I hope that she's still doing as well as she did that year. That was about 3 or 4 years ago. So what I'm saying is plan ahead. So plan ahead with your treatments, plan ahead with your food intake. If you anticipate that you're going to get something this year other than change your mindset to a wellness season, think about what you can do to strengthen your immune system. So start taking your herbs, start seeing a wellness practitioner, an acupuncturist, an herbalist, a functional medicine doctor. Start doing that before you get sick. And I think there's a lot of power to feeling like you're doing something about it. That really has a positive aspect to it. And I also want to mention as a side note that our bodies are amazing, and we don't give them the credit that they deserve. They do so much for us. They're strong, they're vital, they can be, and they recover really, really quickly when given the opportunity. If we abuse our bodies, of course, you know, you get what you put in. So, but our bodies are strong and they want to be well. I really believe that, and I think you should too. So if you feel that you have the ability to heal, you will heal. Stress management, you know, can't say enough about it. I recommend that all of my patients meditate, and if they're not into sitting meditation, it doesn't have to be this ordeal where you sit and meditate for, you know, an om and everything. It's whatever makes sense to you. So the idea is that we are in charge of our brain, and our brain is not in charge of us. So, and that we create an awareness of thought patterns and loops, repetitive thinking that does not serve us. It's an awareness thing. So if you don't want to sit and you say, oh, I can't do that, my brain is too active, you're not alone, first of all. The human condition, I'm pretty sure we are, you know, programmed to run away from predators, and we have that anxious part of us. And for most of us, being calm and not anxious is work. And a lot of people, when I tell them that I'm really not a calm person, even though I look like it, I can fake it really well. I am also very anxious and have had to work on it for many, many years. So, you know, don't feel bad if you just feel like that you're not a meditator. There's a lot of other things you can do by using mindfulness techniques. Go online, look at YouTube. There's lots of stuff about it. I love the story of, I heard this from, I don't remember now, but somebody who went to a meditation course and the teacher was presenting. And the teacher said, I went and stayed with my meditation teacher for a week or something to study mindfulness. And I found out that she doesn't have a formal sitting practice. And when the student said, oh, you know, it's really interesting, so you don't sit? And she's like, no, I'm just mindful all day long. I'm mindful when I'm cooking and prepping dinner. I'm aware when I'm outside walking my dog. You can do mindful walking. So basically, there's many, many ways to be mindful. So if sitting doesn't speak to you, you can do other things. But my favorite apps for meditation, my favorite one is called Insight Timer. It's awesome. And the other one, a lot of my patients like Headspace. So Headspace is a good one too. And then there's plenty of programs if you really want to get in depth to meditation and learn more about it. I highly recommend that because you learn a lot about yourself through the practice of meditation. So that's all I have. I need to run, actually. I am so grateful that you all joined me. If you have questions, feel free to comment in the box below, and I would be happy to get back to you eventually. I don't know if I'll get back to you in the next few hours, but I will get back to you. And I really appreciate you for watching today. And this is my very first official Facebook Live. I do want to do more of these, and if there's any topic or concern that you have, feel free to suggest them. And I miss you, Aunt Ruth, and Polar, and Audra, and I think there's other people here too. Thank you so much for being here and listening. It means a lot. And feel free to reach out if you have any ideas or feedback for me. All right, love you all. Bye.